Miyazaki just did a bunch of interviews, and we learned a lot of really significant things. For example, see this weapon art? Turns out it's not specific to this weapon. Instead, you can mix and match weapon arts to multiple weapons.
This right here is gonna add like so much diversity to Elden Ring. I think one of the things with Dark Souls, or just like the past few Dark Souls in general, they've just sort of like reused the animations and stuff. But now being able to customize your own build and weapon arts and stuff like that is actually crazy. It's gonna be amazing.
See, this pot boy, you might be able to capture enemies like this and then summon them as spirit helpers that fight alongside you. Bosses can supposedly be tackled in any order. We now know a lot about which parts of the story were written by George R.R. Martin, and multiplayer is supposed to be more convenient than ever before.
For any like Dark Souls player out there, I think you understand that multiplayer being a bit more convenient, because yeah, there's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with Dark Souls multiplayer, man. It is so tedious, and the fact that you have to like ember yourself before you could even like join a world, I just found that pretty stupid, because once you run out of embers, you're like, oh, now I just gotta go farm just to go online. Do you know what I mean? So
Elden Ring news has really only just begun, so please subscribe and keep up with it all. For the purposes of this video though, I've split the information into 4 categories: gameplay, the open world, multiplayer, and story. Let's begin with gameplay. So Elden Ring will see the return of the stamina bar, though Miyazaki notes that he feels like it has less influence on the player overall compared to previous games. It sounds like it's going to be closest to Bloodborne though, where stamina can stop you from spamming actions up to a certain point, but still allows for really fast-paced gameplay. They've obviously learnt a lot from working on Sekiro most recently, and like Sekiro, Elden Ring also has an implementation of stealth. You can crouch to sneak up on enemies, bypass certain areas, or simply assess situations while hiding in long grass.
that's going to be very different, because in majority of the Dark Souls games, you can't really sneak up on enemies that well. I mean, as soon as they catch sight of you, you're pretty much slapped, right? But adding that element to an open world game is going to be amazing, especially assuming you're going to be able to backstab enemies. I just hope that they don't reuse all the animations, and it's like pretty much the only thing that I'm going to hate about Elden Ring in particular is that if it comes out and it's just basically another Dark Souls. Do you know what I mean? Like if it feels too much like Dark Souls, because this game, although it's pretty much based off Dark Souls, right, it should feel a lot different, especially assuming it's an open world. And yeah, hopefully they don't screw it up.
When night falls, your stealth is enhanced, but your visibility is decreased, and some scary enemies will only appear at night as well. Elden Ring now also has a jump button, allowing you to avoid sweeping attacks and perform jump attacks that differ based on the weapon you wield. Furthermore, fall damage has been greatly reduced to encourage your vertical exploration.
That's going to be very good. Dude, any of you that have played Dark Souls, man, you fall off like a 2-foot ledge and you lose like half your health for no reason. I've never understood it. Man. Like, and the heavier you are, the more damage you take, I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that, but I'm sure that was how it works in Dark Souls 3, 2, and 1.
And unlike any game before it, Elden Ring has horseback combat, though
That's going to be amazing. Especially in an open world Dark Souls themed game. That's going to be amazing. I can't wait. I really can't wait for this game to come out, but it's coming out pretty soon. Time scale wise. We haven't really heard much about Elden Ring in over a year, but like when this came out.
Miyazaki stresses that most battles will still be done on foot, except for certain fights where you might need that extra mobility. But the newest and most fascinating addition to Elden Ring's game...
The double jump in the trailer was making me think that there's got to be some sort of customizability with your horse. Like, this... Do you get like a double jump, or is that an ability of the horse? Like, because they talk about NPCs being able to level them up and stuff, but I'm wondering if you could do it with your horse.
Play, in my opinion, are summonable spirits. So, as seen briefly in the trailer, these are enemy-based spirits that fight alongside you, and they fulfill certain roles, like tanking for you, or attacking from range, or assisting you in melee. They're also able to be leveled up, apparently, and maybe even customized. Now, they can't be summoned everywhere, but they are something that you're apparently supposed to consider as a part of your build, similar to how you pick up a weapon and upgrade that. And like weapons, who you choose to summon will also come down to personal taste. Miyazaki himself says that players might often enjoy a certain enemy tagging along with them, even if they're not...
I think that'd be pretty fun, just having these like random enemies that you can sort of capture and just like bring along with you on your trip, especially for an open world game. That's going to be very good. I hope they don't make it too overpowered or then like too boring, if you know what I mean, to where the summons do absolutely nothing. They either do absolutely nothing or they do, like, they can tank like pretty much every hit until you've killed something, right? That's where they need to draw the line, I think, because, you know, if you're going to be able to summon a spirit in a boss and then just have them tank all the hits while you just wail away, that's, yeah, you really know.
Not much use in combat. Potboy, I choose you. It's funny, ever since I saw Father Owl summon a bird that defends him, I thought this would make a good addition to the game, and it's crazy that it's actually a thing now. In fact, you literally see a character summon a bird here. So spirits having these specific roles and unique animations is so much better than just having a human NPC following you around awkwardly, like in Dark Souls. Overall though, Elden Ring is probably closest to Dark Souls in terms of gameplay.
Yeah, see that double jump? I can understand that it'll be like Dark Souls, but what I really don't want is for them to make pretty much another Dark Souls, where like they've reused animation for certain bosses or something like that, or you know, because I don't know what they're going to do with it, and I hope these bosses, when we get to fight against them, that they're not boring. Because you take Dark Souls, right? And the biggest problem with a lot of the bosses in Dark Souls is the fact that you can exploit them so easily. Like, a majority of bosses, there's always a strat. There's always a strat that you can do to completely cheese the boss, and I hope that's not the case with this game. I really hope so, because I hope they make the boss fights actually worth something, you know? I hope that they make this game so you don't just have to use like 1 or 2 builds to beat the game, you know what I mean? Because, I mean, you could beat the game with pretty much any weapon in Dark Souls, but the problem is like, why would you want to? You may as well just get a straight sword and shield, and then just that's it. Just roll, hit. That's, yeah, I just don't want another that, where I think Dark Souls bosses were pretty well designed, but there was just always a cheese to them. I don't like that. I don't like a cheese. No, just don't.
Combat. This is what was expected, but what I didn't expect was how deep they're going with build customization, because in addition to magic, weapons, armor, and spirit summons now, you also have skills. So in Dark Souls, every weapon had a different weapon art, special attacks that could be activated with L2. Sekiro also had combat arts, which you could equip to your character and perform by holding L1 and R1. I feel like neither of these things were a huge success, gameplay-wise, but now in Elden Ring we have skills, which are kind of a combination of weapon arts and combat arts. So there are around 100 skills in total, apparently.
That's going to be very good. You know, the more options a player has for customizing their character, the better, you know, you can make. Because that'll give Elden Ring some replayability, which I think a lot of the Dark Souls games don't really have that much replayability. Although, like, yeah, Dark Souls 3, for example, I love that game. That is my favorite Dark Souls. I haven't tried 1, I've tried 2, I haven't tried Bloodborne. Definitely need to start being a bit more cultured, but, yeah, the problem is replayability. I mean, it's the same bosses and you're just doing them again, right? There isn't really any incentive to actually keep going. If there was certain abilities that you could gain from beating the boss again, that'd be great. And also one thing, while we're on the subject of bosses and skills, it'd be so good if they made the bosses actually replayable. So like, you know, in Dark Souls, right, you have to go into New Game. You have to go into New Game Plus to be able to like actually beat the bosses. I wish you could. There was an item where you could like you could choose to summon certain bosses back, right? Every time you like when you kill the boss in your first playthrough, you're able to summon it as many times as you want and just beat that boss and master it, right? And yeah, I just hope that would be a thing. That seems like a cool concept to me, where you could just revive bosses and just fight them again, because it's so much easier than having to go through the entire playthrough with Dark Souls just to be able to come back and then fight the boss again. Do you know what I mean? There are certain things you can do on PC to like reload saves, but you know, not on PS3 or console or anything like that.
They can be freely assigned
Why did I say PS3?
to a large variety of weapons. So you see this jump back slash the character is doing with the curved sword? If you liked the skill, but not the sword, then you could assign this skill to a different weapon.
Yeah, but that brings the question of like, you know, like hearing this the first time I heard this, it sounds very stupid in a way, because like, take the aqua or the daggers in Dark Souls, right? If you could have a dagger moveset with a fucking greatsword, no, David, please don't do it. I think you could be like, it's a cool concept to be able to switch weapon arts onto different like other weapons, but one thing I don't want is for you to be able to like use a straight sword moveset with a greatsword, or a dagger moveset with a greatsword. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I think you get where I'm going. I know they probably won't do it, but still in my head I'm questioning it. Like, I hope the fuck not.
Insane amount of build variety.
Yeah.
PvP players are going to love this, and it's
PvP is going to be insane.
going to help to fill the open world with discoverable abilities. The open world is also filled with crafting materials, which...
Yeah, sorry I'm pausing so much, but the crafting is an actual like big thing that I'm looking forward to, because a lot of open world games, and Skyrim's like the closest thing I can like really that I can think of for now. I'm just going to use Skyrim as the example, but you know, in Skyrim, where you have like the main quests, but then you have like the optional quests. The problem is, there was no real incentive to actually explore the world, if that makes sense. Like, for the main story, you have the choice of going into the other options, but it's kind of meaningless. You know what I mean? You don't really get much out of doing the side quests in Skyrim, or any Elder Scrolls game, but you get my point. But, so the one thing that I think needs to be mastered by game developers in general is filling that gap between an open world game. There needs to be like variety. There needs to be something in between that as you're traveling to be able to catch the attention of players in the game who are like just passing through. Like, I recommend adding quite a few NPCs, in my opinion, quite a few of them, just around the map, just someone you could talk to, have specific dialogue, or, you know, just that sort of stuff in general. But you can understand what I'm saying, because in a lot of open world games, like I said, not much variety when you're exploring the open world, and then you just have like a few side quests that you can do, but they're just repetitive. Do you understand? So
you can search for and use to create the items you need the most. A lot of these, says Miyazaki, will be healing items, which will be necessary, he says, since you might find yourself fighting for a longer time between checkpoints.
That's one thing that I'm going to be a bit annoyed about, like, is, yeah, how long do you have between checkpoints is a real question. You know what I mean? Do you have to fight, like, 200 fucking enemies chasing you? Because, yeah... With nothing. I don't know if it's going to be harder than Dark Souls, or it's going to be easier, but I'm guessing it's somewhere in between.
And in
I just hope it's not like too difficult to where the point that, you know, you're getting so close to that checkpoint and then boom, you get slapped by something and then you die and you've got to go all the way back to the start. That's what I hope not, because in Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2, yeah.
Previous games. Of course, all this experience,
that skeleton room,
you get from fighting can also be used to level up your character.
Ooh, quickly touch
This experience you
on
get from
something
fighting can also be used to level up your character.
This if this is an actual boss, it pretty much just reminds me of Yom. But this boss looks actually insane. given how big that dude, that's gonna be fun to fight. But I hope it doesn't have. I hope it's not like Yorm, right? Because this is pretty much Yorm when you think about it. It's just a giant. I just hope they don't make the mistake of giving this boss a ton of health and then just having that like weapon that you can charge 4 times and is dead. Do you know what I mean? Because with these big characters, they have a lot of openings. Especially with Yorm, you could just hit it 4 times with a wind. I don't know what the fuck it's called. Wind grid sword. I'm just gonna call it. Or storm something. I don't fucking know. But yeah, I just hope it's not one of those. Please do not.
So between
It looks like Irithel.
skills, spirit summons, weapons, magic, armor, consumables, and crafting materials, you're going to have a ton of tools at your disposal.
I wonder if that's a boss. I'm guessing that's a boss.
And crafting materials, you're going to have
I'm guessing this is a boss of some sort, but it looks amazing.
To take on the world.
Just the effects in
But
general.
one thing to consider is that I feel like all of this is going to affect the difficulty of the game, specifically its skill floor. So something like Sekiro, for example, had a very high skill floor. In order to progress in that game, you literally needed to have the mechanical skill to
Oh yeah, in Sekiro, if you weren't good at that game, you wouldn't progress. Like, I think the one big thing with Sekiro is it's do or die, if you know what I mean. If you're not fully committed to the game, an average player will not get through Sekiro. It doesn't matter how hard you try. It wouldn't happen because you have to actually learn the patterns and stuff. With bosses like Dark Souls, you can pretty much cheese them, like I was saying earlier.
Come certain fights. In that game, you can't rely on leveling up your character or using tools that the boss is weak to. Elden Ring, on the other hand, will offer ways in-game to overcome difficulty, just like Dark Souls in that regard. This isn't a bad thing, it just means that if you're lacking a bit of the mechanical skill, difficulty can also be overcome with preparation, cooperation, and exploration as well. While exploring the massive world, you'll also have access to a world map, which you can consult to see where you are, where you've been, and where you've yet to go. This map will work in the open world, but apparently not in the smaller spaces of each map. These legacy dungeons are said to be more akin to what we're used to in Dark Souls, and each open world will...
But that place looks amazing, I'm not gonna lie. The devs, top notch on the level design. I'm not even, just looking from this. If you can explore everywhere around that castle and all these open areas, as long as they put something in between, it'll be absolutely amazing. Like, even just to explore in general, the graphics, the scenery, just everything. It goes so well together.
Have its own main dungeon, as well as catacombs, camps, and fortresses interspersed throughout the open world. There are 6 open worlds that we'll be exploring, and each is going to be the domain of demigod characters that we'll discuss in a different video. Altogether though, these areas are called the Lands Between, and
that place looks absolutely gorgeous, I'm not gonna lie to you.
Altogether though, these areas are called the Land...
That place with a big tree, that spirit type tree, that looks absolutely amazing. I can't wait to explore what's around that area. I can't wait.
And they're arranged in...
Just all the stuff in... All what we could see in the trailer is absolutely amazing. The actual design of everything is so well done. So well done. Everything looks wonderful, so good job. Good job, devs,
in such
honestly.
a way that there is a logical progression to these open worlds, although you don't have to follow it. In fact, apparently you can skip more than half the game's bosses if you want to. In that sense, the game sounds a lot more like Breath of the Wild, where the main path is quite clear, but...
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, the only problem with that is, if they don't fill anything in between that big gap, if you can just skip all the bosses, go to the end, I think we just need the incentive, because, even though you can skip the bosses, right, you'll still have the incentive the first playthrough to go and explore, won't you? You'll want to explore the areas, and you want to see what's about, you want to see what enemies they have, etc, and collectibles. But that's what I'm saying, they actually needed to fill it with something. they need to, because if they just have this open world and you have like a few collectibles that don't do anything, there would have been no point exploring. Although the place does look beautiful, and you can ride on a mount, which I love. I love that.
But side paths are tempting to explore, and according to Miyazaki, none of these side paths or side quests will appear on your map. Instead, it's up to the player to mark these things themselves manually, which I feel like
that's more immersion.
Is fantastic for immersion. A little later in the game, the player will be able to access a hub area, where you can branch out into the 6 main areas of the lands between. On top of this,
like, look at that.
You can branch out into the 6 main areas of the land.
Look at that, dude. That looks so good. I actually can't wait just to explore random stuff. I hope there's not like I hope you can customize the character. That's one thing. Like, you can actually customize the character's face and everything. I'm sure it's like Dark Souls, but I don't know if you'll just have like a single character you can play through. I don't know.
Between. On top of this, fast travel is also present, though from software.
I don't actually know what I'm talking about, by the way. I had no clue. Now that I think about it, yeah, they'll just do the same thing as Dark Souls, of course they will.
Lands between. On top of this, fast travel is also present, though From Software say that they encourage users to enjoy the exploration.
Yep, and that's what I was saying. Fill the open world with stuff.
And cover the map for themselves. Like in all open world games, and like in Dark Souls as well, the more you discover, the more powerful your character becomes, and I'm sure that the difficulty of a From Software game will be a really good motivator for exploring the world, and not just fast traveling everywhere. This was a problem I noticed in...
Yeah, basically Skyrim. Like, once you've pretty much got all, like, the majority of places in Skyrim discovered, you don't really need to go anywhere else to complete the story. It's like you just keep fast traveling back and forth, and it kind of has no incentive to go out and explore stuff.
Ghost of Tsushima. At some point, I became so powerful that I didn't really need to explore the game anymore, so I think that the skill of From Software in designing difficult areas will really help to motivate you to explore a bit more. But From Software says that another motivator for exploring is going to be meeting NPCs around the world, who are said to add drama to the journey. They add twists to the narrative, and they also influence the endings. According to Miyazaki, the NPCs you meet will have a really big impact on the way you view the world and the story, because they'll reveal how they see the world, and he even calls them protagonists, and says that they're an extremely important part of Elden Ring, which, is certainly more than he's said about NPCs in past games. For all these NPCs, however, there will be no bustling towns or villages in Elden Ring, compared to something like Breath of the Wild. This isn't their specialty, he says, so they've chosen to...
That's understandable, though. I can understand a few NPCs. I'm not expecting it to be like an actual open world game where you have like a bunch of NPCs, villages and stuff, and yeah, I don't expect that. But it'll definitely be a good game just looking off what we can see.
Focus on other things, like dungeons and level design and also character customization. The usual, fragmentary story presentation methods through item descriptions and dialogue are said to be expected, though the team also says that they're leveraging what they learned from Sekiro and think they'll be better able to present the surface plot through dialogue and cutscenes. But what is really said to be different this time is how the story of this game came to be written. In the past, Miyazaki says that he would set a game system and then write a story that matches that, but this time he says it was kind of the opposite. George Martin wrote the foundations of the story. He came up with the mythos of the world, including the Tarnished and the 6 demigods, and then the team applied gameplay systems to suit that story. From Software said that they expected to have to leave out parts of the mythos to suit the game systems, but that luckily it ended up not being like that, and that their collaboration was a very fruitful one.
Just don't even need to explain how wonderful that place looks. I've seen with the horseback where you can double jump, like take the stuff in the background you can see, the bridge. That'd be amazing if you can actually like jump from place to place and like explore, and yeah, amazing.
Speaking of collaboration, the developers are aiming to make it easier to co-op. Firstly, you previously needed items like humanity or embers
It was
in
so
order to
dumb.
participate in online play,
It's so
but
dumb.
now this requirement has been either reduced or removed. Secondly, because the world is so vast now, special locations now exist.
Yeah, with that animation, I'm guessing you can summon your horse pretty much when you want.
Where
Obviously, I don't think in certain
players
areas,
can
but
leave
I'm sure in obviously the
their
open world.
summons and see who is currently available. Lastly, once you're sharing a world with someone, it seems like interface elements will be added to provide more information about other players in the world, and to enhance the connections that you have to those around you.
Like, one thing that I've always wanted in, like, especially with this game, I think they should do, like, imagine being able to see what armor, what level they are, and all that sort of stuff. Like in other open world games that revolve around, like, fighting and stuff like that, right? And collecting armor, like, Elder Scrolls Online is sort of my thing, where you can see people's gear and stuff. Yeah.
Something called groups are being added to the game. So once you join a group, you'll be able to single out the phantoms, the bloodstains, and the messages from other people in your group to connect on a more relatable level. For example, I'll probably be able to set the password Potboy, and you guys will be able to see and connect with other people who have chosen the superior spirit companion. On top of this, the game will also have covenants, which are said to add flavor to the multiplayer. You know, something like the Aldrich Faithful from
I'm a fellow Dark Moon Blade myself, so
Dark Souls 3, for example, where you roleplay as a defender of Aldrich. This kind of thing is back in the game. And
what a spell. Took me so long to get that Dark Moonblade spell. I've used that on every single playthrough throughout my Dark Souls career.
PvP is also, of course, confirmed. It's even possible in these massive open fields, which is a nice surprise. That said though, Miyazaki said that you can't use your horse in the open field in PvP, which...
That's understandable. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. It makes perfect sense to why you could not ride a horse in PvP. It does make sense, because, you'll have people just running away and taking the mick.
It confuses me because I can see how PvP might be awkward on horseback, but I don't understand how they're going to disable you from getting on your horse. It just seems so necessary.
I guess when you're in the area, it'll sort of like, that coded area will be specific to not be able to have a horse. So I think they're going to do something like that with the PvP area. I don't know how it's going to work, obviously, none of us do, but that's what I'm going to guess.
Open world. Before you go, consider checking out the Elden Ring inspired merch I mentioned in the last video. Check out the last video, which is more of an analysis of the trailer, and keep an eye out for a story video, which I think I'm going to work on next, because there's a lot of information on the story that I haven't covered, particularly on the official websites, and also about all the contextualization we...
Yeah, I'm gonna watch this next.
We don't have to imagine